You've been at this for so long.
Yeah.
Can we know, just in brief, why you think Yoruba should exit Nigeria?
Yeah, I don't do anything without studying the situation very carefully.
Okay.
I watched the Yoruba people going through the murderous dictatorship of Sani Abacha in the 1990s. And I could see it is a development upon earlier developments, and that the situation was getting progressively worse for the Yoruba people. So then Obasanjo came up and became president, and nothing was getting better for the Yoruba people. And I was there in America at the receiving end of a great deal of information from home and from all over the world concerning the Nigerian situation and the Yoruba part of it. And I decided that I needed to systematize my collection, collation, and interpretation of the information. That's what I'm trained to do. I'm a researcher. So to be able to do that, I founded an organization. I inaugurated an organization called Odua Foundation. We met for the first time in the campus of Temple University in Philadelphia. Just 8 of us. I gathered them and I told them what I had in mind.
United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States
of America. Yeah. And they were glad to be part of it. And so we started up and the organization. It was a think tank. That is an organization that is not active, not politically active, but is finding things out. And we spent a lot of time, a lot of energy. I have a lot of write-up on the situation in Nigeria and the Yoruba part of it. And we looked at all the information at our disposal, all the research that we have been doing since 2006. And we came reluctantly, but very clearly to the conclusion that the way things were going, the progression, the trajectory of development as they affect the Yoruba nation in Nigeria, if they continue the way they were continuing, the Yoruba nation will reach a point very soon, maybe in the next 10, 20, maybe years, of total dissonance. The Yoruba nation will not be able to hold itself together anymore, will become a raggedy nation with young people doing exactly what they like, with no focus to life, with no moral underpinnings anymore, and all the great things that we used to know about the Yoruba people as a people of principle, a people, a civilization building people, and so on, will just vanish. And the Yoruba nation will just scatter. There will be a diaspora outside that will still hold on to the old traditions, old morals, old ethics of Yoruba nation, but they will be afraid to go near Nigeria, to go near the Yoruba people in Nigeria. They will stay out there, and they will not come to be part of the Yoruba nation. They will not bring any input into the life of except maybe money.
So the conclusion is the only way to go.
The only way to go as far as we were concerned by 2014, was to get our Yoruba nation out of Nigeria. And to do it as quickly as possible.
Good. Now, getting Yoruba out of Nigeria, given your background, I know 1959, towards the election, towards the independence of Nigeria, we had three major parties, AG, NCNC, and MPC, which essentially means each major ethnic group have their own party. That election was inconclusive, as it were.
It was conclusive.
But then they have to be negotiating.
It was conclusive. Chief Awolowo won the election.
So what happened?
The British decided that the Yoruba people must not rule Nigeria. And
the British decided?
Yes, that the Yoruba people must not be allowed to rule Nigeria. And the reason was obvious. We were the most educated people on the African continent. And we had a leader who operated entirely on principle. They used to joke in the gathering when the colonial officials gathered the governor general and his assistants and so on. When they gathered to drink beer in the evening and relax, they used to joke about Chief Awolowo. So it's not a complete black man. It's not complete. Why were they saying that about him? You can't bribe him with anything. The average black man you can bribe. You can mentally romanticize to agree to what you are doing. You can bribe him with money or with women or with whatever or with honors and so on and so forth. But Chief Awolowo was not the kind of person you could do that to.
Britain decided Yoruba must not rule.
Yeah.
Now, after the...
And the reasons were obvious.
Okay.
There are reasons are obvious. The British came out of the Second World War with their economy blasted by the Second World War. Until the 1950s, the late 1950s, when we were talking of independence, many British cities were still in ruins from the war, from the Second World War. A lot of resources was needed for recovery. Nigeria was Britain's largest colony in the world, in Africa and the world. And so Nigeria was expected to supply, to provide the resources, much of the resources for the recovery. Now, willy-nilly, because that has become the trend, Britain must let Nigeria have independence. Because there was no sense in holding colonies anymore. All the colonial powers agreed to, except Portugal, agreed to let their colonies become independent. Now, so if Nigeria was to become independent under a solid leader like Chief Obafemi Awolowo, there would be nothing they could do. There would be no way they could use the resources of Nigeria to build their country. Chief Awolowo was going to use the resources of Nigeria to build the people of Nigeria.
Now, as it is, will you then agree that what people call Nigeria's independence is actually an entrapment of Yoruba race?
Yeah, that's it. I sometimes wake up in the night and think, wow, our leader was solid, very solid, a man of information and knowledge. How I wish, instead of throwing his energy into the 1959 election the way he did, he threw his energies into that election in the way that nobody on the African continent had ever conducted an election campaign. Nobody in the history of Africa had ever conducted an election campaign the way Chief Awolowo conducted an election campaign in 1959. Nobody. It had never happened in Africa. So I said to myself,
how I wish he will use such energy.
How How I wish he would have used that energy
for Yoruba race
to try to get us out of Nigeria. He would have done it.
Welcome back to Local Journal, my people. The Yoruba people don't dey very serious about leaving this country called Nigeria. Just like everybody did tired of this contraption called Nigeria, them myself they don't too dey very tired. And that one be the reason why this man, what they call Dr. Akin Fakunda, they always write to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, say me then go back to regional government, abi make Yoruba people come up from inside this country. But this time, now Professor Akintoye, now he don't write to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu so that he go fit allow Yoruba people wey dey fit come up from inside this country called Nigeria. He talk plenty things about the reason why Yoruba people won't come up from inside this country. He talk say this country, say Yoruba people no fit stay inside again. Based on say the environment don't do toxic for the Yorubas, and based on say the Yorubas no go fit progress under this situation and atmosphere. He talk about the situation of the country and how the situation of the country don't turn everybody violent against each other. He talk say President Bola Ahmed Tinubu owe them response, say as he writes the letter to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, say if he reject am and if he approve am. But the thing where they be say President Bola Ahmed Tinubu owe them response. And he talk say during their time they be like that today. Say all this banditry and this Fulani killing where they go on for inside this country now. Say during their time, say in they travel from west to east, east to north, and nobody they even fear about anything at all. Nobody they fear about anything like insecurity. But today, insecurity now be the order of the day. And because of this reason, and many other reasons where no fit even mention, say Yoruba people no fit dey inside this country again. Say this country is stagnated and this country cannot move on based on the current setting of this country. Say so many plenty issues stay inside this country. Say before they brag about this country, anywhere where they go and anywhere where you go represent. But the situation no dey like that again. Based on say they don't kill this country already. He talk plenty things inside the video and he talk say this country no go feel better again. And for the best interest of the Yoruba people and other people, say make this country divide and make Yoruba people feel come out. He gave reason why he no want make Yoruba people be part of this country again. He talk plenty things inside the video. He compare the current state of Nigeria to waiting them they experienced during their time. He said during their time, life was enjoyable. Say Nigeria a country to brag about because every other countries for Africa and all over the world, they look up to Nigeria based on how Nigeria been there and the prospect of Nigeria at that time to become one of the world powers. But as he be say, Nigeria no they progress, rather it is stagnated, abi it they go back. The Yoruba people no fit continue to they watch, me then they go back as well. So for this reason, now the reason why he write to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, make the fee approve him so that the Yoruba people go peacefully leave Nigeria. He talk plenty things inside the video and I go play the video so that I'll go watch them together. But before watch them, if today night be the first time you visit our channel, I beg make you like, make you share, make you subscribe.
now. Given such efforts, it is clear that Awolowo did not benefit anything from that independence.
Not at all.
2 years after he was being investigated, 3 years after he was in jail.
Even from the day of independence, they almost didn't provide a seat for him at the independence celebration.
So what's the benefit of Yoruba in this independence?
Nothing.
So you agree that it is an entrapment of the destiny of Yoruba?
Yes, and from that day they were already planning, even before that day, the moment they got the NCNC and the NPC together to form the government in November that year, they began to plan, to plot, to drag the Yoruba Western region down.
Now, given your experience inside Nigeria and outside, given your wealth of knowledge, are we doing enough to extricate ourselves from this entrapment?
No, we are not doing enough. We are not.
So what should we do?
Our highly educated people, our professionals, and so on, don't get it.
Very recently, you wrote a letter to President Muhammad Buhari saying what?
Saying that all things considered, we Yoruba, after carefully and charitably considering everything, we Yoruba have decided to separate ourselves from Nigeria. and have our own sovereign country separate from Nigeria. It was factual and friendly letter.
But what has been the reaction? Has there been any reaction?
No.
Either from government, from the Yoruba people themselves, or?
Oh yeah, there has been a lot of reaction from Yoruba people themselves.
Okay.
Yoruba people are very happy.
Yoruba cannot exist in isolation.
What do you mean isolation?
I'm coming. We will need relationship with other.
Of course,
right.
That's why we.
Now, what has been the reaction of the international world?
Okay, the international world is very, very appreciative of the fact that there is a people who are pursuing their self-determination struggle peacefully, decently. They are very appreciative of that. In fact, that is our big cachet in the world. That, you know, the world likes that. We are not throwing stones or killing policemen or burning police stations and so on. We have proceeded peacefully. Even when we rallied in the streets, we taught our young people no violence, and they were very careful, no violence. The reason we decided from the beginning not to have one single large organization, but to have a number of organizations, is simple. Again, it's a matter of studying the situation. So we had to study the situation very carefully. If we put ourselves together in one single organization and so on, then we create an easy target for the federal government of Nigeria.
Now,
so we decided.
There are some that are decidedly thinking they can have regional autonomy under the same.
No. They don't belong to the Yoruba self-determination struggle.
Okay.
The ones that belong to the Yoruba self-determination struggle want our Yoruba nation now. They don't no regional autonomy or anything. No.
So what will be the point of negotiation?
The point of negotiation will be.
I'm thinking there will be option A, option B.
There is no option A or B for us.
No B plan.
No.
Suppose they don't react the way you want.
Then when we get to that bridge, we will design how to cross it. We are an intellectually sophisticated group. The Yoruba nation is, we are much stronger than we think. When we get to that bridge, we will design our way of crossing. There are two streams now flowing through the heart of Yoruba land. One wants to be part of Nigeria and then the enslavement and so on in it and win election and so on, in the unreasonable hope that their winning election will change things for the Yoruba nation. It won't. We know it won't. So that's the group, that's the stream. There is our stream which says we want to take our destiny into our hands and have our own country and be the kind of country that God created us to be.
Suppose at a table now, United Nations or AU, African Union,
or Ghana, or even Benin Republic.
Or Benin Republic.
Yeah.
Now say, okay, President of Nigeria, please come. Prof, please sit down.
Yeah.
We've seen grievances. We've seen the path to peace is mediation. Now we don't want bloodshed. What options do you have, Buhari? And Buhari is saying, I want Nigeria to remain one. The only thing I can concede is autonomy to region or autonomy to state. If Buhari, they ask you, Buhari, suppose. Now, what will you put on the table as the options?
I will put on the table the realities of our situation, the realities of the Nigerian situation today. There is no reason for anybody except personal considerations to want Nigeria to continue as a country now. That is now. Nigeria is virtually out of the committee of nations in the world. It's a country that cannot finance its own self, that cannot pay the salaries of its servants without borrowing money from from place to place. It's a country that is spending, according to the International Monetary Fund, 92.6% of its income to service debts. It's a country that the United Nations calls one of the poorest and one of the most unequal countries in the world. It's a country which an international body that monitors debt trends in the world has called the #1 home of extreme poverty on earth. It's a country that a United Nations agency says, as things are going, by 2030, fully 50% of the poorest people in the world will be Nigerians. There is nothing to, if we are looking at the interests of human beings, then the answer is, listen, we went to school at a time when Nigeria, we were young people, at a time when Nigeria was a great deal of hope in the world. But 60 years, 62 years after, we have run it aground. We have run Nigeria aground. That's the truth of the matter. So what is it that we did not do before that we will now do now? Look at it. Our young people are fleeing the country. Educated young people are fleeing the country in droves, and there is no thought in their minds of coming back. Some of them that don't have brothers or sisters who can help them to run away, they are trying to reach Europe by crossing the Sahara Desert, and then they
endangering everything.
Endangering Don't talk about it. It's horrifying. They will try and cross the desert. Sometimes they will get to an oasis. There will be no food, there will be no water, and they will just sit where they are and die.
As the security situation in Nigeria now, what do you want to look at? I mean, is it improving?
No, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. The Fulani have decided that they don't have a homeland. Now they want to have Nigeria as their homeland. They've never had a homeland. Now they say Allah has given them Nigeria as a homeland. And if anybody, and they are going to kill, maim, destroy, and make Nigeria the bloodiest war zone on the African continent. And they were going to, listen, I was in Benue State, Makurdi, a few days after the Fulani went and killed large numbers of people in Benue State and destroyed many villages. And some of us elders in the land, I hadn't started this struggle by then, decided we must go and commiserate with the people of Benue State. So they said, 4 from the Yoruba, 4 from the Igbo, 4 from the Ijaw, 4 from the Middle Belt, 16 of us, Chief Adebanjo and myself and 2 younger people. And we went to Makurdi. The governor had gathered the elite of Makurdi State to receive us at a huge hall. And we greeted them and so on. They were still carrying out mass burials and conducting national mourning. It was a somber, sad.
Oh, finally, before I go,
let me finish this. When we had said our commiserations, the governor of Benue State said, thank you very much. But the people who wrote a letter to us that they were coming to kill us in November have now written another letter to us. The killing occurred a week or so ago. And now between that and now, the same people who wrote a letter to say we are coming to kill your people, and who came on January 1, New Year's Day, and killed a whole lot of people, had between that January 1 and the day we are sitting now in Makurdi written another letter to the governor of Benue State. And the governor brought out the letter and read it to us. Many of us were petrified on our seats.
In a country.
The letter said, dear Mr. Governor, we see that you and your people are carrying out mass burials and conducting national mourning. But what is coming to you is a lot bigger than that. We are coming back. And we are going to do worse than we have done before. And what is your offense? Your offense is that the ethnic groups in your state are claiming that the land where they live belongs to them because they have been living on it for thousands of years. They are wrong. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to us Fulani. Allah has given it to us. And we have a reason now to take it. And we are not talking about the thieves and so on of Benue State alone. We are talking of all the nationalities, the ethnic groups in Nigeria. The Yoruba, the Igbo, the Jaw, everybody. We are going to drive them, all of them out of their land and take the land and seize it. And if they will not go, we will wipe them out. We will exterminate them.
They wrote that.
Huh?
They wrote that.
Yes, the governor has that letter. Yeah, he read it to us. So that is it. It is not a matter of political negotiation. It's a matter of survival, life and death for the Yoruba nation.
You mentioned earlier that yourself and the Afenifere leader, Pa Ayo Adebanjo, were together. I know there is Voice of Reason, VOR. I know there is Afenifere. There are a lot more. I still want to know, what are you doing to understand each other?
We understand each other.
Okay.
I was the political chairman of the political committee of Afenifere.
Okay.
Afenifere is my route. My political route is entirely Chief Awolowo. I was a young and intellectual in 1975-76 when Papa came along and said, well, at the banned country we're dealing patapata, but we can rebuild it, and I want you to come and join me to rebuild it. That's what created the Unity Party of Nigeria. So Gbogbo Afishe Wasile went to with Papa. I wrote the manifesto of the UPN. I was chairman of many of the committees in the UPN. I traveled around the world for the UPN and so on. And people like Chief Adebanjo are my senior brothers. They are my senior. He is my senior brother, for whom I have a lot of respect. He doesn't have the kind of understanding of the situation that I have. That's fine. That's not strange. Father and mother, father and son may not entirely see the same thing the same way. So we don't see it the same way, but that doesn't mean we don't respect each other. We are both products of the Awolowo family, political family. VOR, that's another, is a body apart. Why do I say that? Because this is the only body we have in Yoruba land, perhaps on the African continent. I find out things, you know, where the professionals are gathered. The professionals are the secret power of a modern country. We have this body with our professionals gathered in it. That's why I have so much respect for. I don't talk about Voice of Reason the way I talk about any other organization. I talk about them with a great deal of respect. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it is not particularly, they are looking at Nigeria and producing, they have written a constitution, for instance. The kind of constitution that they believe the Yoruba people will be glad to live under in Nigeria. It's a futile exercise because there is no constitution that the Yoruba people can live under in Nigeria. There is none. The only route for the Yoruba nation forward, according to the destiny, to God's destiny for the Yoruba people, is to have a separate country of our own. And we are not a small country. We are about 50 to 60 million. How many countries in the world are that population?